Whoa, hello everyone. That's us. We're here now. I hope you all enjoyed the promo image, because you can thank Mick for the promo image, because I saw that on Twitter and I was like, I have to have this. This must be the image you are all welcomed with. So I'm joined. Unfortunately, Hussein couldn't be with us because he's knackered. He couldn't hack it. He just didn't have enough about him to be on here today. So, but he did tell me before the stream, so he doesn't get the horrible, dreaded label of being a black metal fan.
He rocked too hard already, and now he can't rock with the dudes anymore.
That's right. Hussein categorically saying dudes do not rock. And personally, I think that's just an offensive message to send. I'm also going to apologize in advance for the quality of Mick's mic, because we don't know what's wrong with it, and we can never figure out how to fix it. So he will be sounding a bit like a robot at times, but I am just glad he's here, and that his move was relatively successful.
Can you hear me, though? For a second, it looked like it wasn't working, but now it is.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah.
Grand. Good.
So I'm going to let all of my guests... There's a new guest here today. I'm going to let all of them introduce themselves. So we'll start up top here. So...
Hello, I'm Mark. I am a long-time watcher, first-time streamer, I guess,
Yeah.
Very appreciative to be here. I've got some very strong opinions on pop punk, and I am happy to share them with you all.
Right. You'll all know Elijah, but I'll let Elijah plug all of his stuff as usual, even though he's basically a co-host.
Cheers. My name's Elijah. I keep forgetting to plug podcasting as Praxis, and they get mad at me in the Discord. So I am a sometimes contributor to the left-wing podcasting collective called Podcasting as Praxis. You can check them out at PraxisCast on Twitter. I stream under Klezmer Rouge. I'm on Twitter as Klezmer Rouge. I'm a guitar teacher, mandolin teacher, general music teacher. I do some workshop streams. I do some political music chat streams, and it's pretty new, but I'm enjoying it. It's going well. And I run a little music podcast called The Bottle Cap Preacher, which is currently on hiatus while I try to find a new co-host. So that's one to look out for, because I have some ideas in the pipeline. But yeah, if you want to learn music things, look me up. I also do online lessons, so that's cool. That's how I live.
That's great. And Mick, who some of you will probably know, but I'll let him introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Mick. Also known as the Broken Bottle Boy. You can follow me on Twitter at Broken Bottle Boy. I do media review and criticism newsletter that comes out today, which is called Conquest of the Useless. And usually, when I'm not moving, daily media show, which is now called The Paper Thing, which is on Twitch, where I talk about how crap all the papers are. But I used to be a music journalist. I worked for Q Magazine for 9 months, and I once went on a small tour with Fall Out Boy. So I feel I am fully qualified to discuss pop punk to a almost religious jihad level. So let's do this.
The main words I made out there were religious and jihad, so we're already off to a great start. This is already a great... Mick has unfortunately been taken over by a robot for brief spells of his opening bit. And also, I don't know why you can't pick a lower quality setting than 1080p. I can't figure it out. I'm sorry, everyone. I've unfortunately exposed myself as a boomer. If you guys want to ask questions, though, you can use the golden tonties to ask questions. The Seamus Moon WhatsApp group has gotten, that's right. So, alright. I don't know what... I had a bunch of really spicy questions to ask, but I couldn't quite think of what the spiciest question was of the list that I had. But I remember we were talking about in the mentions of the original announcement tweet, where the line was between pop punk and various other genres, and that might help us if we actually figure out where that line is, because otherwise we're never going to be able to get anywhere, and we're just going to constantly start screaming about whether skate punk and pop punk are the same thing or not because of the Tony Hawk video games. So go ahead, guys, go ahead. It's much more free form than the normal one, so you guys can just jump in if you feel confident. Define pop punk. Do it.
I'm going to nominate Elijah to do this, because he was saying a lot of things that made sense last night in the mentions. To an intimidating level, I might add.
So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. Like, like what is a genre? How do you delineate a genre? And especially if you were like on like metal forums back in the 2000s, or even today, that's like a discussion that happens all the time. And people get into massive flame wars over, is this melodic prog power or is this melodic heavy? All that kind of shit. To me, in wider terms, a genre can include, it can be a tricky discussion to have because people will be thinking about a lot of different things, like when they talk about it. And they can be historical delineations. It can be like a scene or like a subculture thing, like a genre label applies to bands who were active in a certain city at a certain time and who maybe like sort of interacted and like worked with each other. And you get like interesting parallels, like the Pogues, for example, were on the same record as Elvis Costello. So there's like a shared kind of new wave punkness kind of thing about them. But a lot of people would simply consider the Pogues to be folk or like folk rock or potentially folk punk, there's a vibe. But to me, pop punk is more interesting to look at in musical terms. And what I like to consider about pop punk is this idea of an aesthetic combined with a songwriting approach, right? And there's things that just don't involve guitars that you could classify as pop punk, or there's things that would normally be considered under like a pop milieu. For example, "Hot and Cold" by Katy Perry, that's a pop punk tune, I think. If you hear it.
I Kissed a Girl is basically like you give that to Green Day and it would, yeah.
It's not just like using pop chords. It's the pop chords combined with a certain sort of approach to song.
Oh, has it happened? It's happened. Haha, happened early. I caught it though. Everyone get F's going in the chat for this one. It happened early this time.
That was quick.
I know. It's happening more and more often. I remember the election night when it kept happening.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're back.
So pop punk to me is like a large musical banner that includes both songwriting categories and aesthetic categories. And I'm going to shy away from the subculture aspects of it because I don't know enough about them and I wasn't really part of them when I was growing up. My love of pop punk has been mostly retrospective.
See, the thing about like kind of 36, I was like in and around this stuff when it was a live thing, like where pop punk, where I would say, because you made a good point last night, like, which is like you could consider the Ramones in a sense to be punk, right? And what you just said about Katy Perry writing songs that would be pop punk if they were played by Green Day is sort of correct, but I think basically what we're talking about with pop punk is a period of time from, say, 1997 to about 2005 maximum, right? If you really stretch it out, with a certain sort of pomp for pop punk as a genre and pop punk as a kind of dominant cultural force. And I think that's the period. Like there are across the whole history of punk, there are bands like Descendants that you could look at and go, well, the Descendants are kind of a hot punk band. But if you went back to the 80s and talked to the Descendants, they'd say, like, we're a kind of humorous hardcore band. And certainly, like, musically, they're a bit more hard than Blink-182 or a Green Day. And then Green Day come out of its ska punk tradition originally because they're very influenced by Operation Ivy and bands like that. So, I mean, yeah, it's complicated.
I mean, if we're going to do like a historical delineation, that's something that we can discuss. And I think you might be cutting it off a little bit too late because like Bad Religion, How Could Hell Be Any Worse came out in 1981.
But the thing is, I think the era of skate punk and pop punk, those two sort of like, they're almost the same thing, but they're slightly different. Yeah, look, you can say that with Bad Religion, but I think there is something that's important about how bands see themselves. And Bad Religion come out of a hardcore scene, right? There's essentially pop punk is a softening of hardcore of the 80s hardcore, which splinters in loads of ways, right? Because around the time that pop punk is happening, the kind of pop punk of the late 90s, early 90s is happening, you've also got bands who are coming out of like the emotional hardcore tradition and becoming emo bands, right? So I'm sure we will later on have a discussion about whether My Chemical Romance are a pop punk band.
Yes.
And they're not. They're not.
No.
They're an emo band, right? And in the same way, you can also talk about harder emo bands like Taking Back Sunday or Rival Schools, for instance. And Rival Schools almost just become a rock band. And it's the same thing with, say, Jimmy Eat World. We had this thing on Twitter yesterday about Jimmy Eat World.
By the way,
but
Mick,
not really.
we had a suggestion about the mic thing, which is that you could just use Discord on your phone and see if that works better.
It doesn't work better. I don't know. I mean, the thing is, like, as I say, it works great on Twitch. This mic, it's a really high quality mic. So I have no idea why we get an issue. It's not to do with the computer fan either. Trust me, everybody in the channel, on the stream, I've tried every option. I was a tech journalist. I have been a tech journalist for 15 years. Any of the most obvious solutions I've tried.
Have you tried turning it off and on again, Mick? No. Okay.
Yes, I have tried that. Yes, I have tried that. Thank you, Glenna.
I was going to go for the noise suppression because Discord has like a noise suppression function.
We've done this like every stream we've had Mick on though, where we've done like
and every time it makes me so happy.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to bring it up. It was just it felt funny to bring it up at that point. But we did make the point about My Chemical Romance being emo, which by the way I do actually agree with. That is it is a distinct thing. And so
can I just respond to Mark in the chat? Mark, I'm not saying that Green Day come out of the ska punk tradition. That was probably badly worded, but they were influenced a lot by Operation Ivy and other bands. Like, those are bands that got them playing. So you got to think like Green Day, early pop punk bands are not influenced by other pop punk bands, and in a sense, pop punk starts to become something. Later bands like say. Newfound Glory, for instance, I clearly have heard Blink and gone, oh, I like what Blink do. I'm going to make songs that are a bit like Blink, right? But Green Day aren't doing that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. A lot of these the point where these things become genres is when they start referencing other bands as their, because I know that happened when early metalcore became later metalcore and then became bad, was when they started referencing the earlier metalcore bands.
Yeah, anything influenced by Converge is not that great, but Converge and Coalesce, brilliant. But yeah, when it starts referencing itself, it becomes an Ouroboros.
Yeah, it starts eating itself wonderfully. Right, hold on. We did have a question. I promise I wasn't ignoring the question. Would the panel agree that All the Small Things only fulfilled its potential when covered by Jedward? No. But I do always enjoy these sorts of covers.
One thing I would say while on the topic of Blink is Blink later on become an emo band on their self-titled record. That's an emo record. It's not a pop punk record.
Absolutely.
I Miss You is them going, wow, My Chemical Romance is doing well. We should do emo. And so, like, there's that, and there's side projects that are quite emo. So, like, even Blink, who are like sort of, foundational pop punk band, start to become a different kind of band at a certain point. They've gone back to pop punk now.
Yeah,
Blink are like, from this perspective at least, other people may disagree with me more generally, but are super interesting because they sort of, All the Small Things, or the release of it, was kind of ushering in the second wave of pop punk, or the third wave, whatever you like, sort of when it became pop with punk rather than punk that had melodic elements. And then with the self-titled album, it kind of crossed into that whatever wave of emo it was then. So they've adapted well in a Madonna Income-esque kind of way, I think.
Same way you look at Green Day and you go, okay, Green Day as of American Idiot, well, probably as of Warning, start to be something else. Warning's a kind of folk punk record, and then American Idiot is just rock, and Green Day are a rock band now, and they ceased to be a pop punk band, 20 years ago.
Yeah, Nimrod was probably the the outgoing of their sort of punk credentials.
I think War is almost a crossover because it has that punk. It's punk done on acoustic instruments.
I mean, this is it's not a discussion that I really like have a side to pick on, because to me these are all just like various kind of subcategories of a larger overarching thing. I would definitely consider emo to be a subcategory of pop punk, and of course there are certain examples where where you do have elements of the subcategory that then branch out into a subcategory of a different overarching genre, right? So there is like a mix and match approach at some point.
I sort of agree with you, but I think it's slightly wrong. I think actually what it is that emo and pop punk are both softenings of a tradition of hardcore that was going on in the 80s, right? And they're like forks from the same thing, and they have similar things because they come from similar traditions. But emo, I don't think is because emo doesn't have a sense of humor, right? And pop punk does. I think if you listen to pop punk bands, they can actually laugh at themselves, right? But like emo is for like people who have kind of pissed their pants a bit and are very like sad and goth about it, right?
Oof,
whereas
the
like
chat
pop
for 14-year-old me right there.
Yeah, whereas pop punk will make jokes, right, and be stupid. And like the power of Blink in many ways is like at their best is that the songs are pretty funny, you know, and they put a lot of jokes in them. And I think Blink did quite well at a certain point because Eminem was out at a similar time as they were on the rise. And there's a sense that there's something about the two of them which is about jokes and saying controversial things in songs and doing things in a stupid way in videos. And MTV2 was the driving force for Blink to really come out of the underground labels and become a big major label thing.
Yeah, I was going to make that point about the MTV aspect, because I think that's Blink and like those three singles was All the Small Things, Adam's Song, and What's My Age Again.
Yeah,
they in collaboration with MTV, they managed to make that like the defining sound of an era, and they did a lot to bring like the entire genre and a bunch of other bands like into this big cultural dominance, which it had been getting to like sort of prior to. And I'm thinking about like when Green Day signed to the big label in the same year as Bad Religion did, actually. But I don't necessarily see pop punk as being the same musical narrative from hardcore in the same way. To me, it has an almost more direct ontological point, and it's why I like going back to.
We said ontological. Oh, we've gone down that line.
The big brains are here, everyone.
So yeah. I mean, to me, pop punk is a broader thing because it's just pop songwriting in a way that is in itself disrespectful to that kind of angrier music, right? Because you don't want to write this kind of countercultural, very visceral, angry stuff and then just, use the mainstream songwriting techniques, man. But to me, that's like a key sort of aspect to it, and that has its own history, right? Its own development. And it's why you can run it, I think, from the Ramones all the way to like 100 GECs. Gex, 100 Gex. How do you?
100 Gex, yeah.
100 Gex.
God, that's so shit. It's so shit.
They clearly have a sense of humor, though, and
they do.
And there's songs from like Charlie XCX, and I had a couple of other examples in mind. I'm thinking of that one. Is it Lil Wayne who did a tune with?
Yes. Oh my God, that tune! It was such a great tune, though.
The only thing I would say about this is, right, you're not wrong, but I think there are basically two forms of thinking about genres and styles and stuff, right? Which is the one way is you could sort of say the melting pot version, which you're doing, and I sort of do agree with, but becomes very difficult as a pop historian or a musical. If you go down that melting pot line, right? Because if you're going to write a book about pop punk, right, you have to, like all good art comes from restrictions, right? And in a sense, in this stream, we sort of have to say, what are the bands we are going to include and what are the bands we're not? Because in a sense, you could say, okay, well, yeah, Katy Perry, Hot and Cold is a pop punk song, right? It is, but it's not because it has the same songwriting techniques, but it's not delivered in that style.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I made a playlist. I'll share it again later so people in the chat can see. And I tried to restrict myself to songs that I felt were core to that kind of period that I was thinking about. So it's like got Good Charlotte and Sum 41 and Ataris and Green Day and Fall Out Boy.
I actually have it open, and it's a really good playlist, and it triggered way too much nostalgia.
And, but, you know, and I went a bit broad on that. For me, going broad was including, like, Head Automatica's Beating Heart Baby, which almost becomes like an electronic song. But I think, like, Elijah's right. You can go pretty broad with this stuff, but it makes discussions like this impossible to nail down and start talking about examples if you stay broad.
I would just like to point out that I enjoy that there's My Friends Over You by Newfound Glory was the best song on there.
That's a banging song.
It is
I think the best song. Do you know the song that I think is super underrated is My Own Worst Enemy by Lit, which I bought on CD single. And it's fucking amazing because it's a really lovely bit of storytelling. And one of the things that is worth thinking about a little bit with pop punk is more than some other punk genres, pop punk love to tell little stories. There are a lot of songs that are a story. What's My Age Again is a series of little vignettes about, you know, the members of Blink being too immature to, like, deal with their girlfriend's mothers, you know? And then, like, you've got the most grotesque song, one of the most grotesque songs ever made, Scotty Doesn't Know by Lustra, about having sex with your friend's girlfriend, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. The storytelling element is part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't, like, you know, argue that we should be considering Katy Perry to be a pop punk artist. Absolutely not.
Please no.
I'm just saying that using the examples of the... So to me, this is an example of the cultural power that pop punk still retains, right? And it's why I don't like the sort of historical really limiting off of it, because to me, very key elements existed before that and continue to exist afterwards.
Do you see? I think we basically agree on this, but I also think there are aesthetics to pop punk, right? Or there were in a certain period. So it's like long baggy shorts, right? It's certain types of hoodies. It's like lots of colored bracelets, right? It's like the checkerboard pattern being taken out of Scar and used and wearing the checkerboard Vans. It's like it's certain types of big skate issue. It's wallet chains. There's this whole, like, there is a pop punk aesthetic. If you saw someone walking along, you'd go, oh, that person listens to pop punk because they fucking dress like it, you know? So there is that aspect of it too. You know, and you've got the games as well, like which Sinan mentioned on Twitter yesterday. You know, the Tony Hawk games are very critical in spreading pop punk of the periods, you know, the specific period and all that kind of stuff.
Also, the like NFL games had loads of these exact songs on. Like they had Blink 182 on them, and it was kind of like I mentioned this on the New Metal stream, which was my introduction to basically all of the music was Madden 04, and it was 50-50 chance of me getting into like what was like Avenged Sevenfold and Blink 182 or all of the rap music on Madden 04, and it ended up being the Blink 182 and Avenged Sevenfold. But yeah, like people underestimate how much those games helped spread these things early on. So yeah.
So Andrew WK. Sorry.
Andrew WK is definitely influenced by pop punk. I get that. But I tell you, do you know a really good parallel, I think, is that pop punk begins as a kind of underground thing, right? On smaller labels. Green Day and Blink are both on independent labels, and you've got bands like NoFX, which were never really in the center of this later pop punk thing, but NoFX was categorically a pop punk band. Other bands like Lagwagon and stuff like that earlier on, right? The parallel is with grunge in a way, right? It comes out of an underground scene, hits the mainstream, and becomes increasingly more mainstream until, like with grunge, you end up with like Puddle of Mud, right? And then with pop punk, it gets increasingly diluted over time, and you get shitter and shitter bands, you know, till you're in like later Bowling for Soup and stuff. And which is just kind of crap. And also bands that kind of splinter off and become something new. Obviously, Sum 41 is a pop punk band, but then is kind of also a bit metal and also a bit Beastie Boys. And you start having to combine bands because pop punk as a singular thing is not enough anymore.
Also, first name check for Sum 41, so that's good.
Fat Lip is still a banger.
Absolutely.
Although it has one lyric in it that is completely unacceptable.
Yes.
Someone's mentioned 5 Seconds of Summer in the chat. I didn't know who they were until I had a student who, she wanted to learn 5 Seconds of Summer songs. It was the best way I could get her to have a passionate interest in the stuff we were learning, as if I could bring it back to a 5 Seconds of Summer. And to my credit, she's now also enjoying Green Day, Blink, and she really liked that tune. Was it Boys Like Girls? I used to be love drunk, but now I'm hungover. Love you forever. Yeah. That one worked really well. But 5 Seconds of Summer to me was really strange, because that was kind of one of the more popular bands that you could, if you wanted to, classify as modern pop punk.
Yeah.
And that's something that I've been trying to find out a bit more about. And I've got this playlist going.
Is it the one you shared with me?
Yeah.
But this goes back to sort of the new metal stream, which is we've got new metal revival. There's sort of pop punk revival.
Yep.
And there are a generation, 2 generations under me and a generation under you, who are into these kind of revival pop punk bands. What tends to happen quite often now is you get people who are into say K-pop, and then get into these kind of newish pop punk bands because they kind of want a more edgy thing, but with boys in it that they can be attracted to. And a lot of these in the new pop punk things, they're kind of squeaky clean, or appear to be squeaky clean. So Polar J Bear says in the chat, Fat Wreck compilations were really important. They certainly were for me as someone who was coming up during the time that pop punk was getting big, and also stuff like Me First doing pop punk covers of classic songs,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
which is a NoFX Lagwagon spin-off anyway.
I don't know how I feel about the term revival, though. I mean, it is so I think Avril Lavigne was maybe one of the last, massively selling, culturally important pop punk albums. If you look at the timeline, right. And then there's not so much. And I think in modern terms, so there are these weird genres that are meant to be like sort of middle school punk. And I'm thinking of bands like Mest or Neck Deep. Yeah. And then
Neck Deep are really shit.
And we're thinking 2014. I love their cover of Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I'm not too keen on the rest. Oh, and their cover of Natalie Imbruglia.
Yeah, but their own songs.
But their own songs are not that great.
Terrible.
Yeah. But their 2014 record was kind of hailed as one of the best British pop punk records. And I'm just I don't really get it. I don't know if this is a revival really, or if it's just a continuation of the same decline, but it's managing to manifest in different ways.
Well, no, but here's another thing. Even though you're young, though you're relatively young, right? To them, you're an old fucker, right? So you don't like it because it doesn't sound as good as stuff you came up on. And I've got the same issue with that, right? But I get why they like Neck Deep, because it's their thing.
Oh yeah,
so you can't really I think it's shit, but I get why they don't think it's shit, and that's my problem, not theirs.
There's also, and because this is from 2014 sort of onwards, these bands, and I was reading about this. It's really interesting. There's there was a whole 2 years where the Tumblr aesthetic was these kinds of middle school pop punk bands. Including the types of Neck Deep. And it starts to intertwine a little bit with these internet subcultures that we kind of start to develop. And I'm just thinking, imagine if Tumblr had been a thing at the height of him.
Oh God, no! Please, please, no! Do not make me imagine that.
Do you think we should try and move ourselves around to talking about specific bands and songs, because we've been in genre definition for some time now, and I think it's good, and I think we've had some good stuff around it, and obviously it's Sinan's stream, so he can do what he likes, but I think the playlist Elijah's playlist and the other playlists I've seen are really good and interesting things to talk around about, like what are the songs that we think are actually good or not good.
Yeah, I was enjoying Mick's one earlier, and it was just banger
like
after banger. So
yeah. Well, I used
I
used to DJ in DJ pop punk nights, so I know what works.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounded exactly like the pop punk night that I go to, or I went to in the before times. And I was like, oh, I miss having 17 Jaeger bombs and feeling very ill as I wait for a taxi. So thanks for that, reviving that feeling. But I'm looking at Mick's playlist now, and I'm like, I can't pick 3. I don't think I could pick 3 right now, so I'm going to let someone else go first. 5, maybe?
I could do my 5. Yeah, I could do my 5 easy. But someone else should go first.
Yeah, George, 17. I mean, ask anyone who's been drinking with me AFK. Yes, that is not an inaccurate number sometimes.
He's Turkish, come on, do you not get it?
It just doesn't affect me in the same way, except it's way worse the morning after. And I'm still mad at Tom Usher for the hangover take. I'm never going to forgive Tom Usher for it. And he is a coward. No, I won't get too mad at him. I'll try my best at a top 5, but I was a tiny bit thrown that Mick included Paramore in his playlist, and I was like, "Oh, is that pop punk? Is that really pop punk?"
Here's the thing with Paramore. Here's the thing with Paramore. They've made pop punk records, but not all their records are pop punk, right? Paramore are a bit of a changing creature, but Misery Business, the song that I put on the playlist, that's a pop punk song.
Wait, was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I can give you Misery Business for sure. So
and that record, the record that's off Riot, 2007's Riot, that to me is a pop punk record.
Yeah, the fueled by Ramen bands in that era were very.
Yeah, it also does the pop punk thing that they love to do, which is sort of cleverish titles. Like the first song on that record is For a Pessimist, I'm Pretty Optimistic. Like it's in the aesthetic of pop punk. Even the sleeve is,
That's got the Refuse sample on it. That's a great fucking tune.
I think quite a lot of genres have borrowed from that aesthetic as we've sort of gone on. That anyway, I'll try my top 5. Okay, Fat Lip by Sum 41. Come on, what do you want from me? Yeah. Like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous by Good Charlotte. I think that will. My Friends Over You by Newfound Glory. I'm gonna put that in. Pretty Fly for a White Guy, even though I would kind of contend about the Offspring more generally.
The Offspring are quite right-wing politically, I've discovered in latter years, which bummed me out. But yeah.
Wow, they hid that better than Five Finger Death Punch, who came out and endorsed Trump. So
did they really though?
Like a little bit. Although get a job.
Why don't you get a job?
Yeah. But also Five Finger Death Punch are like the angry redneck army shagging band. So it was way less. But I think my final one, just because it reminds me of that night I was referring to, Gives You Hell by the All American Rejects. I'm gonna be spicy about it. But yeah,
it's a great like song. Chant along song.
It's also a great example. Like the video of that is a great example of storytelling in the thing. So there you go. I don't know how many of you watched the video for that.
Yeah, no, it's I remember that record. That was,
Elijah.
Okay. 5.
Okay. Right. So, 21st Century Digital Boy from Bad Religion. I think the 3-part harmonies that they kind of made mainstream in the playing, in that kind of vibe, is very important. And now I'm going to try to swerve into more sort of personal favorites. So I've got Dear Maria, Count Me In from All Time Low.
Banger, though.
Yeah, great.
I'm going to go with Girls and Boys from Good Charlotte. I've got 2 more, and this is getting really, really tricky for me now.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to do Bowling for Soup, Girl All the Bad Guys Want.
I mean, that is an absolute tune, so...
And I think I'm going to round it off with something potentially controversial, which is Helena from My Chemical Romance.
Oh God, we're doing we'll do My Chemical Romance after we get...
I've had to leave out Paramore, and I fucking love Paramore. I had Riot on repeat for 2 years straight.
I saw Paramore live. It was very good. So, right. Up top. Go for it. Your top 5.
Right, okay. Hit the Lights, Body Bag. is just an example of like the pinnacle of that era of sort of late 20s, 2000s kind of pop punk. Everything Is Alright by Motion City Soundtrack.
Yes.
It's fun. It's fun.
Yes.
Got that keyboard thing that everyone started doing after a while. Saturday, Fall Out Boy. It's just fun pop punk. Am I on 4 or 3 now?
We'll just say 3 and then you can just get 2 more.
Yeah. Space Between by Valencia. It's just another you've had too much Strongbow and you're on a dance floor and you don't know where you are kind of track. And then anything off first 4 Year Strong album, because I can never remember any of the titles, but it's a really fucking good album, and they kind of just rewrote the same song 12 times.
Are we going to do the My Chemical Romance? Are they pop punk falling out?
They go in and out of pop punk. Because I can't really do my Paramore argument and then not accept.
There you go.
But like the thing about My Chemical Romance is sometimes they're Welcome to the Black Parade is not a pop punk record. It's an emo rock record. It's not a pop punk record. I know people think
it's like a rock opera kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and the other thing is concept albums are not pop punk. That's a thing for me. They are not.
The concept was one of the like biggest and best pop punk records is a concept album. They fucking did a Broadway show about it.
No. If you're talking about America, if you're talking about Green Day,
yeah,
that is not a pop punk record. Green Day become a rock band.
It absolutely is.
I will fight you. That is not.
I can't believe we've got to the first threat of fighting on this stream, and it's because of the pop punk stream and not the new metal stream.
I'm breaking the lockdown law. I'm getting in a car. I'm getting to Scotland.
They'll arrest you and throw you in jail up there for being English, so be careful.
There are elements in that, but I think Green Day realised they needed to become a rock band to ascend to the next level that they needed to ascend to, and I just don't consider concept albums are offensively prog in many ways, and they're certainly not pop punk, and they're definitely not punk. I guess The Refused did you could say kind of did, but anyway, we could be on that a long time. We'll never get to my top 5.
Yeah, go for your top 5. Go on. We'll do MCR after again.
Yeah, my top 5 is When I Get Old by The Descendants, Misery Business by Paramore, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous by Good Charlotte, Dance Dance by Fall Out Boy, and Damn It by Blink-182, which is from the record before the big record, but I think is their best song.
Hold on, I've just got big news that Praxis Cast now have a Tory Big Dinners t-shirt, so
I want that. I'm buying that.
I want both of the shirts. I want the Pasok shirt and the Big Dinner shirt, and I need to wait for my payout. If you want to help me buy shirts, subscribe to the stream so I can purchase all of these shirts. I've only got one Trash Future shirt and one Praxis Cast shirt. I need more, because I lost a lot of weight, so I've run out of shirts. And it was fine. It was deliberate weight loss.
I feel like I could really upset people by positing that Monitor by Titus Andronicus is a pop punk concept album.
Monitor is Titus Andronicus are a hardcore band. You know they're not a pop punk band. Don't fuck with me on this.
I did one really joking, spicing take. But you, spicy take.
Elijah, come on. We've got to stay friends. You have to admit that
I was winding you up there, yeah.
I have interviewed Titus Andronicus. If I called them punks, but pop punks, they would have cut me. There's no way. There's no way.
I'm loving the idea of Mick having to interview people after being on the record on this stream as calling people pop punk and just getting his ass beat.
Also, I fucking love Titus Andronicus, and if there's anyone watching who's not heard their record, they are an incredible band. They haven't made a bad record. Yeah, they're great.
But yeah, so we were doing the My Chemical Romance as pop punk, and someone did make a point in the chat. I need to find it. This is the problem. You need to submit these as questions, but what was it? So who was it who said that a particular song by My Chemical Romance was their only pop punk song? Because I wanted to know which.
Bullet.
It was Bullet, which I kind of buy
a
little bit, yeah. And also, how about NoFX The Decline? Which again, submit these as questions basically. So I
No,
I think
Linoleum by
NoFX
NoFX is a huge influence on a lot of
yeah.
pop punk that came up later.
I think NoFX. I get this feeling that there's so many similarities or shared elements with pop punk, but I get this feeling that they try to withhold themselves from like a full commitment. You know what I mean? Like it's something I can't quite put my finger on. But when I listen to NoFX,
Well, partly it's because Fat Mike's a complete cunt.
I mean, there's the sort of self-deprecating kind of self-aware humor aspect to it, the kind of vocal style, the very catchy songwriting, but I just feel it feels like they're very deliberately kind of holding back from just that like final step into what that would be. So it's an interesting
By the way,
one.
on Green Day, I think Mark Kanosis is right, where he says Green Day were absorbed into general alt rock from at least Good Riddance onwards. There is something to be said for that, because if you look at stuff on Nimrod and Insomniac, they are starting to become more like a heavy alt rock band.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think
you could very easily put the Goo Goo Dolls, Iris, Nimrod thingy on the same.
Oh, we lost
Good Riddance.
Yeah, I think you have to, because the thing about Elijah, one of the things that you tend to do, right, is think about like stylistic elements of stuff, right? And certainly you've got. I would contend you have to admit that Green Day's style becomes a more chunkier rock type sound and less of like. There's a certain way of playing guitar chords that that is pop punk, right? If you play a certain guitar line and a bass line in a certain way, you go, oh, that's pop punk. That's how a pop punk song sounds, right? Which is why you made your argument earlier about Hot and Cold, because Hot and Cold is structurally like a pop punk song, and if you play it on a guitar in a pop punk style, it sounds like that.
It's the sound that you instantly recognize as, oh shit, that's pop punk when you hear a song. It's like that playlist Elijah sent me of like the songs that are from 2018 onwards. And I'm like, if he hadn't told me they were new songs, I'd have been like, oh shit, I must have listened to this when I was like 16.
Yeah.
But like,
for me, Green Day get chunkier, you know? You start to get more power chords and more kind of distortion and dun that's heavy. That's like more towards a kind of alt rock type stuff.
There's a couple of things on this. Like, Billy Joe, for example, hates the term pop punk. Like he hates it. So
that's
there's
like
a very deliberate
getting angry about new metal.
I mean, I know what you mean. Songs like Good Riddance, you would categorize them like automatically with Closing Time, for example.
Yeah.
You know, like
I think Billy Joe wants to be Springsteen, if I'm honest.
Yeah, maybe.
They started off wanting to be like various hardcore bands that they were on lookout with, and now he's more like I want to tell big blue collar, can be on Broadway stories. That's what they're about now. Yeah.
That was a smoke alarm, by the way. Sorry, everyone.
If they were still pop punk now, it would be like, wow, that is so noncy.
It's no. That's for the metalcore stream where we talk about that particular problem. That's not. It's not so much the pop punk stream.
But you cannot really be a 50-year-old man in those long shorts, right? Wearing checkerboard Vans.
It is
and being
vibes.
Oh, I'm in high school and it really sucks. And you're like, man, you're not.
In 2004, I think Alice Cooper released a song on his album The Eyes of Alice Cooper called I'm Stuck Somewhere Between High School and Old School, and it's like a high school pop punk song, and it's really, really funny because it's Alice Cooper, right? So he's like 60 something at this point, and he's decided I'm going to try my hand at pop punk, and it's really, really funny.
Because do you know what I would say? I would say Blink were pushing it when they put Rock Show out, right? Because they were like cruising towards their early 30s and putting out Rock Show about meeting a girl on the Warped Tour and all this kind of stuff. And it was like, okay, you are singing for your audience who are 15, but you are not 15. And this song sounds really fucking weird. Several of you are married. One of you is dating a porn star. You're not meeting girls on the Warped Tour unless you're, doing some serious Gary Glitter shit, which you legally I'm required to say we're not doing.
I'm gonna warn the chat not to name that band again because we had one incident on I don't forget which stream where that band was named, and it was the one with end participation where I called them the horrible name for them, and we've had enough. We've had enough of talking about that band, and I don't think they're pop punk, to be fair. If you were wondering, I don't think. No. I also feel bad for every other member of that band who like.
And I also feel bad for the similarly named pop star who the Sun libelled when that case happened.
Yeah. Right, should we look at the other playlists? Because Elijah sent me 50 playlists.
Meeting women who are there to pick up their daughters from the Warp Tour. Yeah, that's accurate.
Oh no. Also, I like that Elijah has sent me a playlist called Pop Punk 2000 to 2020, but there's probably a significant gap in there before some more songs show up.
This is the one. So this was a very interesting episode of And Introducing, which is the music podcast that Chris from Chapo runs. And they had Juicebox on as a guest, and Juicebox had curated this pop punk playlist, right? And if you look at it, I'll post a link in the chat.
Oh, there's
Skrillex. It starts with 100 gex. There's Against Me, but then it goes Air Pop, Alien Ant Farm, Alkaline Trio.
Well, Alien Ant Farm.
I'm looking at it.
That's not quite the right thing, but I like Alien Ant Farm.
I've got it by like artist thing. But yeah, there's Skrillex in it. There's Lil Uzi Vert. And he just talks about this like vibe aspect, right? This kind of extracted aesthetic of the songwriting. And I think listening to this playlist, it's very interesting to like bear that in mind, almost as like an exercise. Like you hear the song and you just try to think, why has this been included? You know?
I'm happy to see Alkaline Trio in there though, because that was an incident that occurred in the DMs where someone neglected to add them into their playlist. I won't be naming names, but no names will be named. But yeah, at least they got Alkaline Trio in there, even though it's got fucking Kanye West in there. So... Yeah.
No, it's an interesting playlist, but if you listen through it and you just try to like extrapolate what is the pop punk vibe in every specific tune, I think it's a very enlightening experience in terms of musical analysis.
Okay, a day to remember. That not so much, I don't think. But I do get why people might think they overlap quite strongly, actually. But they were always more of a core band. Anyway.
I mean, yeah, like Skrillex. You know, the I forget the name of the tune, the big famous one.
Which big famous one? There was a time when all it was Skrillex, and my brain is still melted from it. God, remember when Skrillex did things with Korn?
It's Bangarang.
Bangarang, yeah.
But you got to remember as well that like Skrillex was in From First to Last, who were a post-hardcore band, right?
Yeah.
So he's coming out of that. He has this punk hinterland anyway. So that's not that surprising.
Okay.
Also, they sucked. But that's
they had precisely one song that I'd ever heard, and it sounded exactly what I expected a band called From First to Last to sound like.
Yeah, and also they had albums. They did 2 studio albums, one called Dear Diary, and the other one called My Teen Angst Has a Body Count.
Oh, gosh.
Like, they wanted to do song titles like Fall Out Boy do, except Fall Out Boy are actually capable of writing good song titles.
Yeah. I wanted to bring up in the under the umbrella of like modern pop punk, Machine Gun Kelly's new album.
You're batting for Hussein's. Yeah.
Hussein mentions that on every TF at the moment.
Yeah.
It's such a good record.
So I'll tell you, I put out the tweet, and he was like, "Please let me come on and defend Machine Gun Kelly." And obviously, he couldn't make it tonight, but I guess someone has to do it, and so I guess it'll be Elijah now.
So I like this thing that seems to be happening, where like pop or like rap and hip hop people are starting to go kind of fuck it, and maybe doing stuff that's a bit more fun, even if like less commercially marketable. Like Post Malone had that whole Nirvana tribute live stream at the start of the pandemic for some fundraising. That was like really fucking good. He can sing Nirvana like no one's business.
He's an interesting character, that guy. Yeah, there's something. I find it hard to like his music, but then I sort of think, well, he is interesting.
Yeah,
there's something that's interesting.
George the Half, new cynical pop punk song title, "I'm So Constipated." That's the Weird Al cover of Avril Lavigne's "Complicated" song.
Oh God!
If you remember that one?
Remember Weird Al?
Have to go and make me so constipated.
Man. Remember
cheap.
when Weird Al was the funniest thing you ever saw online?
Weird Al's still fucking brilliant, man. I don't give a shit. But yeah,
Weird Al's brilliant because he was doing that before other people were doing that, so he gets to keep doing that.
He's got the head start on everyone.
So Post Malone did his Nirvana thing. Miley Cyrus is working with Stevie Nicks on something.
He's got
she's been doing
Miley Cyrus just put that out today. It's a combination of Edge of 17 and Midnight Sky, and it is so good. But Miley Cyrus is good.
Yeah. But there's this kind of re-exploration, right? And of course we know that mass media is cyclical, right? We had the Stranger Things thing and everything, and the shitty Spielberg film where everyone's in virtual reality. Fucking Ready Player One, God.
There you go.
You know, like all these nostalgia trips, and it's just cycling round. And the Machine Gun Kelly to me is very interesting because that is like, I think that's excellent pop punk. He's got Travis Barker on board. The songs are very well written, but they also have that kind of Gen Z creative flair. You know, that kind of like Billie Eilish approach to sort of songwriting that's a little bit pick and mix, very deliberately broad, kind of defies conventional classification if you're looking at it. But the vibe is still, you know, like very much in a like firmly rooted in a pop punk milieu. Like,
I think you're bang on. I think you're bang on, but I think because we are in the age of the Spotify playlist songwriter, though, like they will just write songs. Like Billie Eilish, I think particularly her and Phineas, her brother. I think the thing is that they've been growing up in this world where a playlist can have Miley Cyrus, then Blink-182, then Metallica, and like it doesn't make any kind of odds to them to just glom all this stuff together in interesting and weird ways. And because you know, when someone mentioned earlier the Fat Wreck compilations and stuff, I was thinking recently about before I was into pop punk. I was pretty young, and I got the last tiny bit of grunge, being a precocious kid who was into music quite early, like 8, 9, 10. And then into Britpop, because Britpop was big, then into pop punk. And the thing about all those eras is they were all defined by a set of compilation albums, really, in the UK. So Britpop had this compilation series called Shine, right? And if you were not that well off, like I wasn't, you'd get the Shine albums. So the songs that I know best of most of the artists, like Garbage, I knew Only Happy When It Rains because it's on Shine 6, and like one song of Sleeper or whatever. And the same thing happens with pop punk, because there are a number of like quite cheap to get pop punk compilations. But what happens now is, of course, it's just playlists. So the scenes and genres are not easily defined or separated. And I think it goes back to what Elijah was saying about these newer pop punk bands now. Like, they're coming to that stuff because everything is on Spotify, and it all sort of surfaces in the great big stew. But genres are not so easily defined. So some of these new pop punk bands, you can see they're taking like some K-pop influence, some grunge influence, some pop punk influence. So you say, oh, this band's pop punk. And you go, is it? It is. Maybe this one song is. Maybe this one chorus is. And then the rest of the song isn't even pop punk. So it's kind of, but all genre definition has got much harder in the Spotify age, I think.
I think there's also kind of this genre purism is almost like a Gen X hangover. You know, that desperate desire for authenticity, which is a very Gen X thing.
It's the guy in the pub who's very specific about which type of death metal he enjoys. Not that I ever meet these people. No, not in anywhere I hang out. But yeah, there's definitely people who want to be extremely specific and extremely into one thing, and I'm like, just enjoy things. Let people enjoy things and enjoy things.
But I
please.
understand how they
Have a
understand. But I understand how they enjoy that though, because if you think back to like earlier eras, like I don't know, goths, new romantics, punks, like original punks, there is something to be said with of making clear aesthetic choices and saying this is my thing and I like these. You don't necessarily have to do it in a way where you say things that other people like are shit, but it's quite nice to have that in-group identification where you go, we are punks, this is what punk stands for. I think what's interesting about pop punk is I still think that most of those bands, and I'm privileged in the sense that I've had the luck to have talked to some, I have interviewed Green Day in the past, I've talked to Blink-182, I've talked to a lot of these guys, is that they still carried with them, even as they went onto major labels and there was all that kind of stuff about whether they were selling out, they still had something of like, they were interested in some of the ethics and aesthetics that came from earlier guys, even, Ian Mackay of Minor Threat and Fugazi and stuff. They come up thinking there are certain things that you should believe as a punk, and there's a certain mindset of what being a punk is. And my issue in part sometimes with some of pop punk is some of the latter period of this kind of core pop punk era, when the newfound glories of this world and the Good Charlotte start to come in, is the punk side is being subsumed under the pop side, not just musically, but kind of philosophically. The earlier pop punk bands still have a sense of they kind of are interested in what punk aesthetics mean in terms of trying to be for everybody, trying to get young kids into the scene, trying to make sure your tickets aren't too expensive. All this kind of, there's a punk mentality that you can still maintain even if you're on a big label. Certainly, I think Rage maintained a kind of anti-establishment kind of vibe while taking money,
That's the plan.
Yeah. I've been trying really hard to listen to more new bands. I watched this video last year from the punk rock MBA.
I love that guy. That guy's really interesting.
YouTube channel. I got into a bit of an argument with him in his YouTube comments one time about the rock industry, and I said, "Look, you're completely ignoring the political reality of this, right?" His thesis was that rock bands just need to market themselves better, and that rap has this whole hustler culture, which is why it's succeeding at the popularity contest. And I thought that was just ignoring so many factors.
I mean, he's a dickhead, but he's.
Oh, okay. There you go. It happened again. All right, I'm back. It was he's a dickhead was the point that we were on, which is always a good point to be on.
He had this video, and he made what I thought were some very good points about the sort of state of rock today, and he went through some of the headliners for big rock festivals, right? And you could count on one hand, not even, the number of bands that haven't been around for more than 5 years.
Yeah.
And it's all the big, it's the biggest rock things. And sure, so there's that problem where the audience demand is going to hinge towards so and so. But he did point out, like how many bands do you listen to that started in the last 5 years? And I had a thing, I was like, oh shit, I don't know of a single band that's in my frequent rotation that wasn't around before 2015. So I deliberately have started looking for some stuff. And I do have a little playlist of new pop punk or even just punk stuff that I have been enjoying having on frequent rotation. I've put a playlist in there for you.
Is that the one that you sent me?
Yes, it's the one called My Hair Is Too Long.
Yes. I love what you name your playlists when you send them to me. It's great. Because we both share that problem.
Yeah. So it's this it's a vibe, really, and a lot of it for me is the fact that when I was a teenager, when I was the right age for really enjoying this kind of stuff, I was a little bit gatekeepy towards myself, and I was into metal, and I was like, well, no, this is just commercial rubbish, surely. And so now I'm enjoying kind of going back in time a little bit, but I'm also enjoying this new stuff and trying to just like experience it from a modern retrospective almost. And and there's things that like Bob Vylan, for example. Have you heard that one? Anyone? Bobby Vylan?
Yeah.
Fucking fantastic, right? And I think he's like comes from like a grime perspective, but he's got this like incredible like handful of punk tracks that are just like absolutely great. Boston Manor, I heard recently. I've really enjoyed, and then I've come across a couple of scene bands who've been around for like fucking 20 years that I had no idea about, like Patent Pending or Bayside.
Oh yeah,
And-
Bayside. I like the Bayside song in that playlist that you sent me.
Yeah,
That song's actually really good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I had no idea who they were.
The
Do you know
first
what?
album doesn't have a
Go
single
on.
bad track on it. It's fantastic.
What is this? The Interrobang one?
Ooh, maybe I don't mean the first one. It's got Hello Shitty and Devotion and Desire on it.
Oh yeah,
I do also like
Yeah, I mean-
Interrobang, to be fair.
yeah. This is just stuff that, I mean, that's not in keeping with the after 2015 vibe, but it's still new things that I'm enjoying the exploration of.
You've not heard
And,
it.
Yeah. So it's an active experience for me. What pop punk is at the moment, and I think there's definitely a cultural demand for it because everything is just so fucked up.
Well,
and you see these kids going to like what's the guy's name? Is it Travis Scott, the huge rapper? And they're like freaking out on the floor, you know, they're like really energetic, but the music's not matching up to it. And I feel like there's a reason why when I'm doing my gigs in pubs, there's like, you know, like masses of 18-year-olds in their first year uni who are singing along to every single word of like All Time Low, Avril Lavigne, and Blink.
I was going to say, how much of this is the cultural stagnation we've been in for the past like 20, 30 years?
Do you know the other thing I would say, talking about new bands and stuff? Because like I'm probably like aggressively Catholic in my taste, and I'm always like trying to find new things. And one of the things I think is really interesting about pop punk and pop punk influenced bands over the past like 5-10 years is there's a ton of really good female fronted or female dominated bands out there, and like four that just come to mind for me are like Bully, Diet Sig, Charlie Bliss, and Rat Boys. They're all really fucking good, very pop punky in their songwriting styles and stuff, particularly Charlie Bliss, and Diet Sig as well, actually. And you know, there are more women in the pop punky scene now as well. Because when you think about some of the bands we're talking about of that kind of 90s to early 2000s era, it was very blokey. It was very much, you know, you can have Lustra writing Scotty Doesn't Know for the Eurotrip film, because there was a kind of underlying, this is boys being silly element to pop punk. Because out of the bands of that era that we've just talked about, or you know, slightly later that we talked about that feature women, we've literally talked about Paramore.
Yeah.
They were. It was an absolute sausage party when it came to bands that actually got art success.
Yeah, like Stand Atlantic are really good. Tiny Stills are very good. Their cover of Schadenfreude is absolutely fantastic. War Against Women, not a pop punk band at all, but a very good punk band. And I'm blanking on a couple more, but they're there. It's good. Yeah.
Right, chat. Do you have any more questions? Because otherwise we're gonna ramble on about various bands for the rest of the time that we have. Forever. We might go forever. My partner's gonna be very angry at me if we're up at midnight talking about every single obscure pop punk band that we can.
Mark Canosa says only really think of Brody Dahl. Yeah, Brody. I mean, the Distillers. I love Distillers. But and also they're way better than Rancid ever were, and Tim Armstrong can go fuck himself.
The official take has been delivered. There you go.
Well, Tim Armstrong's a massive sexist, and he was really bad to her because he kind of basically said the whole time the only reason Distillers were famous was because she was married to him, etc., etc. But you know, she's a better singer, and unlike Rancid, Distillers didn't make the same record like 5 times in a row.
What about the X-Ray Specs?
X-Ray Specs are an incredible band, but I think
Would
X-Ray
you-
Specs are a punk band.
Yeah, you'd keep it out of the milieu.
Well,
even if
also
we-
X-Ray Specs are kind of weird because like oh bondage up yours and stuff. It's like X-Ray Specs are their own thing. Really, I think I get. Do you know what? I'm sort of solidifying around slightly when it comes to the pop punk thing. I think the element of humor is kind of really key. You know,
Mhm.
X-Ray Specs has the anger of a classic sort of original British wave punk band. You know.
Yeah.
In a way,
Fair enough. I just thought I'd,
no, but I
pop
think
it
it's
in.
interesting because I think there is a humorous side to them, but it's humor that comes from a sense of like this society is horribly misogynist, and I, as a woman, am going to write these songs about how fucking horrible it is. You know, X-Ray
Yeah.
Specs to me are similar to the band Penetration, who don't get talked about very much, who are a fantastic band of the same era, but only managed to get one album out. Yeah, definitely a prototype, says Mark, and I agree with Mark on that.
Yeah, the chat has had some good and interesting takes. It's a shame I can't have the entire chat in here, like on election night on Elijah's stream, where we did basically get the entire chat in at one point. Do you remember much of that night, Elijah?
Bits and pieces.
Okay, all right, okay, good. I just wanted to twist the knife there a little bit while we had him.
I do have a 9-hour VOD, which eventually is probably going to be worth clipping through. But my God, I do not look forward to the task.
Yeah, because you have to get rid of that because we had Jack from Real Politic on, and of course that comes with its own risks when he's live. And so,
Jack, the libel leprechaun.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it was pretty bad because he did pretty much do that, but I think it's so deep into the VOD that no one's gonna notice. Anyway, I was looking through that Pop Punk's Not Dead playlist you sent me, Elijah, and I was like, I remember I mentioned it to you where I was like, Zebrahead, really? Are they pop punk? Like, are they really pop punk? Like,
I was never big into them in their earlier stuff. I've heard their latest record, the 2019 one, which I think is very, very, very good.
If
And
you
I
look
think-
at pictures of Zebrahead, they take pictures like a pop punk band does. Everyone's pulling a twatty face the whole time. So in that respect, they understand the aesthetic. I'd say they are. Like a lot of their aesthetics are influenced by that. And also they came out in 95, so you know they were in that era.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
There's some there's a good argument for that.
There's a Sum 41-ish trajectory there, I think, with some of their stuff, but
Yeah, they got a bit rapcore, like rap rock and rapcore in there, but you know.
That was like when they did that later than everyone else, though, so they came to that way too late. They came as that was fading away, because I remember, because that was when I was starting to properly listen to music. And yeah, we should all put a playlist together of all of our pop punk songs.
Well, let's make a collaborative one and stick it. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah,
That'll be huge.
The best playlist in the history of playlists. I think we can definitely make that happen. Guys, do you have any questions or bands you want us to scream about? Because we can definitely scream about specific bands, but we also distinguish this. They should play covers. I'm pretty sure there was a cover of a Zebrahead song that was used for Sonic 06, which is utterly
People should
cursed
just
band.
we should just do a speed round now of people putting bands in the chat and us agreeing whether they're pop punk or not.
All right, speed round. Put bands in the chat, and we will tell you whether they're pop punk or not. And also, yes, the rabbit is adorable in the background.
Yeah, I keep getting distracted by how cute the rabbit
Yeah,
is.
it's so cute.
Okay.
AFI.
Yes,
I'd say yes.
Offspring, yeah.
I also really like AFI.
Garbage aren't pop punk.
Garbage, not so much.
Meh.
The Offspring.
I'll give it a pass as well.
Offspring.
Yes.
Yeah.
How much of a connection do you think pop punk had to the ongoing geopolitical events when it was most popular? I think that the Blairite Clinton era had an effect because pop punk was quite soft and humorous because politically most of the people making it were experiencing relatively little political upheaval.
And this is the 90s.
And pop punk started
fine. Yeah.
post September 11. Pop punk is basically dead because you can't make such light-hearted music around September 11th.
Yeah.
So that's my theory.
So LTA is probably meant to mean lower than Atlantis, right? Sapphire?
Yeah. No.
No, it's too late, right? Surely that's too late. Way too late.
Saves the Day.
Saves the Day.
Yeah, saves the day.
But with an emo tinge.
There's going to be a lot of that.
Era of things, aren't there?
This song will become the anthem of your underground.
Again, when it kicks in, it's pure pop punk, isn't it?
When is the ska punk stream? I mean, we've got my schedule's full. I've got like a commentary at dunking stream to schedule. I've got the stream on the 13th that Jack from Real Politic kind of jumped the gun on and mentioned.
Sapphire, you're totally right. They are late, but they do have that vibe. I'd agree with that. I would agree with that.
I just remembered a dreadful omission from my top 5, which is Ocean Avenue by Yellowcard.
Yes, Yellowcard. Yeah.
Yeah.
As much as I kind of have an instinctive repulsion from Yellowcard, I do like that song a lot.
That's a great tune.
That's kind of the summary. My summary of a lot of my earlier relationship to pop punk was, I really don't like these bands, but these songs absolutely go. But yeah, any more bands, everyone? We'll do this for a little bit. If you have more bands for us to talk about, Busted.
Busted.
Yes.
That is very pop punk, isn't it?
Busted up, definitely pop punk, and they are good. Sorry, but they're good.
Actually,
they're good fun.
McBusted too.
Yeah. Oh, the thing about Busted as well is that Charlie from Busted went on to do Fight Star, which is like a proper hardcore band, and they did some good records. They actually did, because I had to do his the biog for the first Fight Star record, and it's actually a good record. But unfortunately, because he'd been in Busted, there was very little chance it was going to. Yeah.
All right, okay, guys. More bands.
Mark Kenosis. Fight Star were worse than Busted. Well, that first Fight Star record had some good songs in it. I'll fight you as well.
God, we're going to end up having a fight.
I've got one. Potentially controversial. Yeah. Biffy Clyro.
Early on, yes. Later, no.
Yeah, I lean no for most of it, but yeah. Right.
Yeah. I think I'm a fire and I burn. That's got there's a definite vibe there.
They took some influence early on, I think.
Yeah.
But they're really interesting because they just swallow genres. They have tons of different stuff in there. Green Day, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what? So I have an idea for my music streams. If you follow at Klezmer Rouge, actually,
you should follow.
So when I play in pubs, I have an entire set list of 90s and 2000s pop punk tunes. And what I did was I developed a way of using folk guitar techniques like Irish trad in dadgad tuning with drone effects to play all these pop punk tunes that I think works really, really well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing a series of acoustic solo versions of these pop punk tunes, and I think you'll like it. If you want to,
that sounds great.
Have a go, yeah. So imagine Dick Gaughan playing pop punk tunes. It'll be like that.
Did you hear
the fucking great
Ben Howard cover that he did of "Call Me Maybe"?
Who did the cover?
Ben Howard did a cover of it on Live Lounge. You should check it out. It's creepy beyond creepy, but it's really good.
That song is going to end up being one of the most covered songs because I've encountered 8 different covers of it independently of me wanting to see that song ever in any context. I just can't escape it.
To answer the question about the Night Driver album, yeah, that's a pop punk album. The Busted album, Night Driver, that is a pop punk album.
Wait, hold on. I'm not going to read the name of the band, the noise band, because that sounds like.
I love that. Did you record any of this band? Because I want to hear it.
End participation would be very. Oh, sorry, my legally distinct friend FFS again would be very interested in some of that. I suspect. Pink. Ah.
Yeah, I would say so.
Pink did some pop punk songs on the big record. That's quite a pop punk record.
Vibe, yes.
Pink is strange. I think her first album, a lot of people thought she was black.
It was very sort of that era.
Because she's singing these kind of soulful R&B numbers, but
I think they're talking about misunderstood. They're talking about misunderstood, though, aren't they? 2001, because Linda Perry did that, and of course Linda Perry was in Four Non-Blondes, which is kind of like a punkish pop
Okay, we got
band.
two. We got two good
So,
ones. So Jimmy Eat World, because I know we had the Are They Classic Rock thing.
Musically they're more like a classic rock band. A lot of like palm muted power chords.
The Killers are not pop punk.
And yeah, the
The
Killers
Killers
are
absolutely
pop punk.
not.
No, just like
The Killers are
get out of
indie
here.
rock.
Yeah.
The Killers have one pop punk song, which is "When You Were Young." It's also their best song. But they're
When
not a
You Were
pop punk
Young
band.
is like it's like Springsteen in his pop era though. That's not pop punk, I don't think.
Nah, no, that's a pop punk tune to me.
Oh god, we're gonna
Scotland.
if only Twitch weren't being weird about like playing music on the streams, I would get these songs up and we would play them. But they're being weird, unfortunately, which makes the Saint Anger stream. It's probably going soon, so just beware.
I can do them next time. It won't be copyright if it's just me on the guitar.
Yeah.
That might work in the future, actually.
We should do one where you can play the tunes. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do the Scarpunk one, and you can do Less Than Jake covers.
I fucking love Less Than Jake, and
That's so
and
good.
I will take no shit.
Everything with guitars playing primary chords is pop punk. Okay, so that's
If
a
it's a
friend of mine.
1564, it's pop punk, right? Which means that Don't Stop Believing is pop punk.
Oh no.
No Woman No Cry is pop punk. Let It
You
Be
are right.
is pop punk.
Okay, fuck off. This has gone wrong now. I cannot.
I haven't heard any new System of a Down. So
Do you know what's really funny to me? You know the Paco Bell Canon in D.
Yeah, that's pop punk.
That is nearly note for note the exact same chord sequence as Basket Case.
yeah, I was gonna say that sounded really feeling.
There's something. But there's something you could do with that. Where, like, basically, there are tons of songs in pop history that rip that. The Beatles rip it on a number of songs.
Oh yeah.
Also, Mark Knosist, well done for pop punk as a type of soup in honor of our comrade who couldn't be here tonight.
Hey. Mark has been like one of the MVPs of this chat today.
Yeah,
I have to say.
I didn't know that System of a Down had new songs out.
yeah.
I
knew they had. I just haven't listened to
Trump.
them. Yeah,
The bassist's gone.
I think the bassist was pro-Trump. So
there's been a lot of that kind of revelation recently. I think.
Absolutely.
is the theme to Magic Roundabout pop punk? Yes.
Wow,
It's very
you know how we spent like the first half hour doing genre definition? We spent the rest of it just demolishing all of our definitions. And it's just,
Do you remember when Simple Plan wrote the theme song to Scooby Doo?
oh my god, yes. Also,
But here's
Simple
the thing:
Plan are a good
genre
band.
true hard-line genre definitions are for Tories.
That's right. That's why the new metal stream went so well.
Tories have terrible music taste.
I'm remembering
I
that
think we need a
thread.
meme of this. It's like you can't just call everything pop punk, and it's like points at thing. That's pop punk.
Three Lions is not pop punk.
That's such a good take. I can't wait to. Anyway, I'll bring that one onto the timeline. I think that's a sufficiently spicy take that I'll bring that one.
Oh, I've enjoyed this too much. This does remind, because I have to say, like, when the 9 months I worked in the Q office was not as fun as this, and I tell you why. Because it was like working in the high fidelity high fidelity record shop, except nobody had any fun. And I remember when I worked there, we had this thing. It was like it came around to like, what is your album of the year? My album of the year was Lil Wayne's "The Carter 3." And I was told that I couldn't have it as my album of the year until I just and got it as my album of the year. And honestly, it was like an office full of Jack Blacks, man. It was an office full of Jack
god.
Blacks.
And also, Four Lions is pop punk. Yeah, sure. God, Syria and Bashar is pop
Syria
punk.
and Bashar al-Assad is pop punk.
Yes, as is well known, the official line of this stream is pro the Lion of Syria, Bashar al-Assad. It's not. No one's like it's not. But if any person whose height is smaller than mine would like to complain about that, they can at my manager at the Sinankos on Twitter, and he will tell them to fuck off. So
Yeah, Mark, it was an office full of John Harris's.
Tattoo.
That's correct.
Tattoo or not?
There's a definite argument, I think, that you could make for all the things she said being a
But we're doing this
archetypal
thing about
pop
like
punk tune.
one song being anyway.
I mean, I don't know any other Tattoo songs, but all the things she said has like archetype level pop punk energy.
The other Tattoo song was a cover of How Soon Is Now, which also slaps.
I like how there are 2 Tattoo songs. Like that's it. Those are the only songs. Like, the only songs that exist are ones that are in my liked songs or that I hear in bars. That's it. Minecraft music. Oh no, that's a whole other stream.
Yeah,
music, but in Minecraft. Right.
Yeah.
I think we've
come to a natural end.
We've come to a natural end.
Our minds.
Yeah, because we're about to properly lose our minds. So I'm going to set up a raid of somewhere, see who's on. But guys, do you just want to, say hi, tell the chat what you do, what your ats are, all of that good stuff. So we'll go up from the top and then round to Elijah, then back down to Mick.
Cool. Yeah, my Twitter @ is Disquieting Calm. I don't do much other than this. I just pestered Sinan to let me on the instant I saw the words pop and punk used in quick succession. And that's about it. Follow me, shitpost at me. It's fun. Internet. Whee.
Yeah, we do cool internet things. Elijah, plug all of the podcasts and stuff that you're on.
Yeah, so podcasting is Praxis, is a left-wing podcasting collective. You can find them at PraxisCast on Twitter. The Bottle Cap Preachers at Bottle Cap Pod is a music podcast where up until recently myself and my Irish co-host, both folk musicians, would listen to chart toppers and react to them and review them, and that was kind of fun. The latest episode that came out about a month ago has a one-time replacement of Jake from the Low Society podcast on. He's a musician too, he's a cool guy, so that's kind of fun. I'm looking for a new co-host to take it forward. And apart from that, I've put in the chat, follow me at twitch.tv/Klezmer Rouge and at Klezmer Rouge on Twitter for music stuff. If you sub to my Twitch channel, you get access to the Discord where I upload tabs and chord sheets and all the stuff that I sort of talk about and work about. And I like this idea for a folk guitar pop punk workshop series, which I'm going to start doing. So I'll post my set list on Twitter, and then people can request tunes, and I'll show you how to play them in
Also, watch the 9-hour-long election broadcast that we
did.
Don't
watch the 9-hour-long election
broadcast. Watch it, because I'm fantastic on it. I make several jokes that land. What I'm going
to do is I'm going to watch it, stream it on my stream, and commentate on all 9 hours.
React to Sinan's terrible jokes about the US election.
Perdidus, Anima, The Strokes are not pop punk.
Anyway, Mick, do you want to round us off before I start the raid?
Yeah, let me say happy birthday to Red Tickseed. I'm glad you felt this was a good present. Thank you, Sapphite, for putting all our arts in the chat. That's very helpful of you. I am at Broken Bottle Boy. Subscribe to my newsletter, brokenbottleboy.substack.com. You can subscribe for free. It's media criticism every fucking day. And if you're on my Twitter at Broken Bottle Boy, you will see me review the papers every morning. It's surprising that I haven't lost my mind. And it's been really great to be here. I am a subscriber to Sinan's channel, and I think you should be too. If you're not and can afford it, then do that now.
Yes, please do that. And also follow if you're new here and you didn't catch this, and catch the VOD of this, because it was really good fun. Also, Mick, your mic was fine for most of it, so didn't even need to do very much.
Good news.
Other than that, on Sunday, I'm on from 1 p.m. with Dr. Eleanor Yanega. We're going to be playing Crusader Kings 3 while she talks about actual history stuff that she knows about. And I try and seduce my way to the thrones of Poland and Hungary. It's good fun. And anyway, until then, I will catch you all later. Good night and happy birthday to Red Tickseed.
Cheers, Andy.